Hey there! This video is brought to you by my supporters over on Patreon and my members on YouTube. Minasan, arigatou gozaimasu. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily good life meditation. It's a video exercise that I do every morning, a little bit after waking up. It's now 4:54 a.m. on the 30th day of January 2024, day 320 in my countdown to retirement, day 62 for my wife. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. You can get a copy from the link down in the description if you like. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours to prepare for the coming day and to ready myself for death. But before I do any of that, I always like to read a poem. So today I'm going to read Edward Thomas's longer than usual poem for him, titled Wind and Mist. Here we go. It's a good one. A little bit tricky. Wind and Mist. Now there's a footnote here. Let's take a look at it. It's from number 45. It's really an appendix note. And let's see what it says. Wind and Note by Edward Thomas. The appendix note says, Wind and Mist, written April 1st, April Fool's Day, 1915. And it says, see note above in a letter to Gordon Bottomley. So the poem, I guess, was included in the letter, dated the 23rd of February, 1911. Thomas remarked, the garden improves, but the clay breaks first the back and then the heart of the house. Of the house, Helen Thomas wrote in World Without End, his wife, that would be Edward's wife, writing about this same house at which the poem is written. This is Helen's words. Somehow we could not love the house. The heavy oak was raw and new and seemed to resent its servitude in beam and door. Beautiful writing. And with loud cracks would try to wrench itself free. There was nothing in that exposed position to protect us from the wind, which roared and shrieked in the wide chimneys. Nor have I ever heard such furious rain as dashed vindictively against our windows. The fire of logs burning in the heath seemed not to respond so much to our fostering care as to the wind, which drew it up in great leaping flames and sent sheaves of sparks into the roaring darkness. Often a thick mist enveloped us, and the house seemed to be standing on the edge of the world, with an infinity of white rolling vapor below us. There was no kindness or warmth or welcome about the house. Wow, what a writer. I've got to add her to my list. Just a second, I need to see if I can get her book. Helen Thomas. That's some good writing. Imagine that. Such two great writers paired together. So that's Helen Thomas writing about the house. And it seems that this poem was included in a letter that Edward Thomas sent. At least if I'm reading that right. Here we go. Wind and Mist. They met inside the gateway that gives the view, a hollow land as vast as heaven. It is a pleasant day, sir, a very pleasant day. And what a view here, if you like angled fields of grass and grain bounded by oak and thorn. Here is a league. Had we with Germany to play upon this board, it could not be more dear than April has made it with a smile. The fields beyond that league close in together and merge, even as our days into the past, into one wood that has a shining pane of water. Then the hills on the horizon. That is how I should make hills, had I to show one who would never see them what hills were like. Yes, 60 miles of South Downs at one glance. Sometimes a man feels proud of them, as if he had just created them with one mighty thought. That house, though modern, could not be better planned for its position. I never liked a new house better. Could you tell me who lives in it? No one. Ah, and I was peopling all those windows on the south with happy eyes, the terrace under them with happy feet. Girls. Sir, I know, I have seen that house through mist look lovely as a castle in Spain, and airier, I have thought. 'Twere happy there to live, and I have laughed at that because I lived there then. Extraordinary, yes, with my furniture and family still in it, I knowing every nook of it and loving none, and in fact hating it. Dear me, how could that be? But pardon me, no offense. Doubtless the house was not to blame, but the eye watching from those windows saw many a day, day after day, mist, like chaos surging back, and felt itself alone in the world, marooned alone. We lived in clouds, on the cliff's edge almost, you see. And if clouds went, the visible earth lay too far beneath, and like a cloud, I did not know it was the earth I loved until I tried to live there in the clouds. You had a garden, and the earth turned to cloud. A flint and clay, too. True, that was real enough. The flint was the one crop that never failed. The clay first broke my heart, and then my back, and the back heals not. There were the other things, real too. In that room at the gable, a child was born, while the wind chilled a summer dawn. Never looked gray mind on a grayer one than when the child's cry broke above the groans. I hope they were both spared. They were, oh yes. But flint and clay and childbirth were too real for this cloud castle. I had forgot the wind. Pray, do not let me get on to the wind. You would not understand about the wind. It is my subject, and compared with me, those who have always lived on the firm ground are quite unreal in this matter of the wind. There were whole days and nights when the wind and I between us shared the world, and the wind ruled, and I obeyed it and forgot the mist. My past and the past of the world were in the wind. Now you may say that though you understand and feel for me and so on, you yourself would find it different. You are all like that. If once you stand here free from wind and mist, I might as well be talking to wind and mist. You would believe the house agent's young man who gives no heed to anything I say. Good morning, but one word. I want to admit that I would try the house once more if I could, as I should like to try being young again. Something about this poem. I'm going to give it a try again tomorrow. What I'll do in between is, clearly this is a dialogue between two individuals, two men, I think. Clearly one of them is a man, Edward Thomas himself, no doubt. I would like to, there's no clear distinction between the dialogue, right? It's hard to know when one man stops talking and the other. It's all context, and I don't get it, and I'm afraid that my reading doesn't convey properly the back and forth. So I'd like to try it again tomorrow. Wow, I really like that poem though. Okay, excuse me. Let's carry on. As for yesterday and last night, let's take a look at the checklist for yesterday. There we go. There's the work side. I did a good, high, heavy, productive day of work. I was in the office yesterday. I completed everything on my list and promoted just this one DDDM to tomorrow, which is today, and a couple of other items. So it's not just that one. The check marks mean these items get promoted. So the fee history as a universal, actually I don't know why I checked that one. That one's done. The invoice printable, I need to work on that today. April's report comes today as well. So I didn't have my notes clear. It was a very productive day. Yeah, it was a good day. Work, personal stuff, wasn't enough personal time to get all this stuff done, largely because I had my commute. So this whole block of items here didn't get done. So they'll get promoted to today. Hopefully I'll have time before starting work during my breaks at lunch, and then in the hour that I have before Yumiko finishes work after I get back from the beach. Busy day. As for my demeanor, my attitude, my composition, my mien, everything was in rare and tuned form yesterday. Although I woke feeling bad. I didn't feel good, as reflected in this video. I thought maybe I would come down with an illness, but then it cleared up after breakfast. So I went ahead and went to work, and I feel fine now. I feel better than fine. Felt great throughout the day. Man, walking like Caesar, that's become almost the norm. Yesterday was even more so. Standing tall, and I wouldn't say proud. I would say resolved to live well. Not living well like champagne and caviar, but living well as in being always ready to die. I really felt that yesterday. It was an amazing feeling. And it's more and more often now. Slept fine. Good day. All right, let's carry on to the good life. There are 8 objectives and 35 principles. And the one I'm going to pull out to talk about today is the path of wildness. The path of wildness, it's easy to find. It's the course of a stream, leaves blown in the wind, a beast's track through the brush, and the direction of our first inclination. The path of wildness is, in fact, the very origin bit of idea from which my whole book, Going Alone, did spring. I came up with this particular idea as a deliberation and answer to what to do when we can't quite make a decision about what to do, particularly relative to how we want to live our lives. An important juncture and crossroads in our days is arrived at, and should we stay the course or choose an alternate path or something completely different? Which option to pick? Well, the process is to do 3 things. First, to collect the facts. It's 2, to weigh the facts, to consider them, talk them over with others, to even maybe write them out, make a measure of the pros and the cons and the assumptions relative to each, the risks also. And then make an informed, reasoned, rational judgment. I choose plan B for the following reasons. Now, if we can't make a relatively easy conclusion about what to do, then assign a date with some more time to deliberate. And then when that date is reached, make a decision. If we still can't do that, then give yourself a little more time and then make a decision. But watch out that this process doesn't unfold into weeks and months and years, as it can, and then our whole life is spent in deliberation. But if we get to the point that we just can't seem to reasonably make a decision, then that's when we step boldly upon the path of wildness, which is, as I said, the direction of our first inclination. It's like the way that an animal steps through the forest. It doesn't necessarily think about where it's headed, I don't think, but as much as feels its way through, sensing, taking in all the sensations that are happening around it from all of its various senses, and then making a deliberation as informed of instinct as thinking, consideration, or maybe even more so. Likewise, the path of wildness is the deliberate choice that we make to follow the course that our inner daemon does suggest. Maybe we should go to the right. That's where our gut is telling us to go. Now, we have to keep in mind that gut feelings can be quite wrong. Taking a juncture at the right could lead us to the edge of a cliff, but it might also lead us to safety. In fact, this whole idea came as I originally, way back when I did have that very choice about, I had climbed a mountain in the desert and had wandered about at the ridge line, and there were multiple canyons going down. And I had to pick a canyon. In the spirit of Thoreau, I decided, I was alone, of course, and I had to decide which canyon, in the spirit of Thoreau, I decided I would take a canyon back that I hadn't taken up, which was not a good idea. And night was falling. It was going to be a cold night. I didn't have a flashlight or anything to sleep in. And I had to pick which canyon. The one I had come up was over here. I had a couple of canyons here. And I just looked at them. I didn't know. I had no idea. There was no way to assess what was down in those canyons. I didn't know whether I would run across, have a clear path all the way to the bottom, and my car was way out in the desert out there, or if I would run across a dry waterfall and be unable to proceed. Stupid. It was really dumb of me to take that risk, just because I didn't know. And I felt, and I felt, and I felt, and my gut said, this one right here. And I took that, and it turned out to be a good choice. And I made it all the way down and back to my car in time. But if I had indeed encountered a dry waterfall that I could not scramble down halfway down, I would have been in for a long night of retracing my steps and making my way in the dark through a rattlesnake-infested desert with limited water, no food, and no flashlight, and no idea where the car was. It was a really big risk that I took. That was my first time to consciously step upon the path of wildness, although I had not yet formulated the idea into my head. The poem that I recited, that I'll recite now again, came to mind as I was thinking these thoughts through in Japan, hiking down from the very important area that I call the area of the White Whale Waterfall in the mountains above Shizuoka, above a village called Hirayama. And I was coming down the mountain thinking about a letter I'd received from a young man who wanted to come to Japan, but couldn't decide to do it. There was just too many conflicting things, just couldn't figure it out, and as a result was stuck like in the mud. His feet were buried deep in the mud. And I was thinking about his situation, and suddenly the following words just kind of sprang to mind, as they do. The path of wildness. It's easy to find. The course of a stream. Leaves blown in the wind. A beast's track through the brush. And the direction of our first inclination. I stopped and wrote it down. That was the nucleus, the very start of what would eventually become the Path of Wildness, and the Path of Wildness essay, and then the Going Alone book later. That idea has been with me ever since, and I hearken back to it and use it whenever I'm in a position of not being sure which way to proceed and need help finding the way. All right. The Creed, 8 objectives, as follows. To be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of time, such flourish, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions, to recognize true limits and true opportunity, to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, and to keep my balance. 35 principles. Oops, I did the wrong. Hold on just a second. The 35 principles are war, reason, homunculus, anchorhold, home of good and evil, purpose, atomic principle, nature, pyrride, maturity, social principle, family, public speaking, temperance, life will not go well, the horror show, that which must be born, the feast of offal, distraction, agency in the great indifference, the best seat in the house, the restless man, the path of wildness, the great life adventure, the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, complete oblivion, the season of philosophy, script writing, the bullseye aim, the uphill climb, arena and utility, nothing is enough, the principle of fun, and being prepared. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Got them all out pretty quick, too. Okay, as for today, this is what I'm going to do today. I have like 8 items on my work list, 17 items on my personal list. I've already got 4 items on the personal side knocked off. It's only 5:14 a.m. I'll knock this out. I'll work my way through this list, the personal side. I'll be ready in time to start work at 6:30 a.m. I'll work on the work stuff all day, and then I'll fill in the chinks and the gaps with the personal stuff during my break, my lunch, and after I get back from my ocean swim. That'll be my day. Am I ready for death? I have to answer 3 questions in the affirmative to be ready for death. First, are my affairs in order? And yes, they are. 2, are my relationships sound? Yes, they are. 3. Is my life's work complete? Yes, it is. So yeah, I can die now, any moment, without a single backwards glance. In fact, that kind of happened last night. I didn't die, but I was having dinner with Yumiko. She brought out a beautiful pot of nabe and placed it on the table, and we began to watch it while we were enjoying our show on Netflix. And I was sitting there and dishing out my nabe and eating it, enjoying it immensely. And I felt this strong pain in the side of my temple suddenly, intense pain. And I went, oh, maybe this is it. Embolism. I don't know what it's like to have an embolism or anything like that. But I was like, okay, Kurt. And I took a quick assessment. I said, are you ready to keel over right now? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm ready. I just kept on eating, and the pain was there, and I was. It worried me a little bit, but it was only a worry of a peripheral worry that you can't help but not have. But it wasn't a worry like, oh my gosh, I've got stuff to do. I didn't even need to say goodbye to Yumiko. I could just fall over flat on my face in my bowl of nabe. That would be a mess. Death by nabe. Anyway, that was an interesting little bit of exercise in preparation, I think. Or a fire drill, pulled the fire drill. Thanks for joining me. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care. I will move forward and up. I will rarely stop, and I will never